in pursuit of health and wisdom. Sapio with Buck Joffrey.
If you're like me, you love to eat, and you don't want to follow any one specific diet just because it's supposed to be the healthiest. By the way, if you want to know, the best diet for longevity appears to be the Mediterranean diet. That's based on the literature, specifically in like the blue zones where people are living a lot longer than the rest of the world. But you know what? I'm not going to eat a Mediterranean diet every day. And the reason is not because I don't like Mediterranean food. I do. I just don't want to eat anything every day. So here's 3 tips for eating that will likely make you live longer and healthier if you're not really up for sticking to like one Mediterranean diet. Here's the first tip. Eat less often. You've heard of intermittent fasting, I'm sure. The word fasting makes it sound really hard, but it can really be as simple as getting all your calories in an 8-hour window. In other words, skip breakfast and you're there. Think about that one. Why? Well, there's a concept called hormesis. In other words, what doesn't kill you makes you live longer. When you have periods when you don't eat, it makes your body think that you're starving, so it kicks on some survival genes. Now, those survival genes are linked to various biochemical longevity pathways. Eating less often is shown not only to cause weight loss, because obviously you're not eating as much if you're eating less often, but also improves insulin sensitivity, appears to improve a lot of chronic diseases and inflammation, and can even help improve neurodegenerative diseases. Fasting is well established in the animal studies out there as being one of the more consistent ways to increase lifespan as well. So it's a major longevity play. So again, eat less often and live longer. Another tip on eating for longevity is to make sure you avoid simple sugars and starchy food. Now, this includes candy and soda, obviously, of course, that's the case, but also applies to stuff like fruit juice or that white bread that's sitting there at the restaurant table before you get served your actual dinner. We want to avoid our blood sugar levels from spiking because when that happens, your cellular proteins get slimed. Now, that's a very medical word, right? No, but seriously, that's the way I think it's easy to think about why you want to avoid high blood sugar spikes. Basically, the blood sugar slimes these proteins that are important for your body to work well, and that also creates a lot of inflammation in your body as well. And if you have to have pizza or something else that might spike your blood sugar, drink a glass of water with a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in it 20 to 30 minutes before you indulge. That'll blunt your blood sugar spike up to 30%. And I actually do that every day for lunch. Finally, while you don't want too much sugar in your diet, you do want plenty of protein. There's a lot of different data out there, a lot of stories that you get from different experts on how much protein you ought to get. Some people say as much as 1 gram per your weight in pounds. Now, that's actually a ton of protein. I'm 215 pounds, and that would be like me eating 2 ribeye steaks per day. In my opinion, that's too much and could lead to other problems, like, for example, kidney disease, because the kidneys are the ones who deal with all that protein and eliminating it. However, it may be reasonable to consider up to maybe half that amount, especially if you're working out a lot and breaking down a lot of muscle all the time. Why protein anyway? Why is it important? Well, there's a pretty good correlation between losing muscle mass and mortality in the elderly. And one of the reasons for this is because loss of muscle mass makes older people more prone to injury, falls, and hip fractures. And hip fractures are a major cause of morbidity and mortality. So making sure you get enough protein is really important and something that you really want to focus on, especially if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, where it's not quite as easy to get the protein you need. I would tell you that people who eat too much meat are at higher risks of developing cancers. I know the carnivore's diet is very popular right now, and people on it, they lose weight and they feel great. You hear that all the time. And that makes total sense from a biochemical pathways standpoint because the body is using fats primarily as its energy source. That fuel source is known as ketone bodies, and they are the favorite of our brains as well. So that explains why people feel great mentally as well. But there is a ton of evidence that red meat, especially at higher levels, can cause cancer. So I personally would stay away from those kinds of meat extremes. But again, eat less often, keep your blood sugar from spiking, and get enough protein. These are the most important components to a diet that will lead towards a longer healthier life. That's it for this medical update. For Sapio with Buck Joffrey, I'm Buck Joffrey. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.